Steve Harvey won't look the same to you. Long after this, since he was advising the Globe on parenting, it appears like they are in a romantic relationship, and I'm not sure you can refute this. Due to Diddy being seen with Lori Harvey and Steve Harvey in Italy, and Marjorie, his wife, his own daughter, found themselves in one of the most startling scandals involving celebrities in years. Lori, Diddy, and Harvey were connected, as was his Justin Combs' son. I've heard that I've previously dated a father and son. There were pictures everywhere. The rumors were unavoidable. "And Steve," he said. "Nothing. Diddy is now on trial for STFing. Additionally, we currently represent 120 those who plan to file a civil allegations against Shaw Diddy in a civil court cone. Individuals are beginning to link the dots, and they're only posing one query. Steve Harvey has never responded. Why he shielded his daughter, didn't he? To the external environment, Steve Harvey possessed the ideal brand. A family-oriented religious man, values, as well as the discipline of suit and tie. He established a media conglomerate based on clean comedy, wisdom anchored in the faith, and surface level of respectability. However, behind all the suits, laughter, and best-selling novels, there was a narrative simmering. One that supporters would, once it broke, you'll never forget it. Additionally, at the heart of that tale was one stunning picture. During the summer of 2019 was caught on camera by paparazzi. That ignited the internet. Sean Diddy Combs, 49 at the time, strolling near next to Lori Harvey, who had recently reversed 22. Their coordinated attire, their personal body language, the manner in which they moved as if they were a pair. It didn't appear to be a cordial business meeting, walk, or an accident. It appeared curiously, romantically. Thus what you consider. It's affection. It's that enamored feeling. I'm kind of willing to be cheesy for you. Affection. The narrative didn't end there, though. More pictures surfaced shortly after. This period of an opulent family getaway in Italy. Diddy at the dinner table, Steve, Lori, and Marjorie Harvey sitting across from the music Harvey magnate, grinning serenely as if it were simply an additional family excursion. To supporters, and regardless of naysayers, the visual message was evident. If Diddy and Lori were actually, Steve was either okay with it, or acting as though they are. Apparently then, they appear to be dating. Furthermore, I don't find if you can refute this, since Diddy was observed beside Lori Harvey in Italy with Steve Harvey and his Marjorie, the wife, and it was the time. Steve Harvey was no longer in the spotlight likewise. The disparity in age was obvious. Diddy had been Lori's shadow as a child. According to reports, he had known her for years. As a close friend of the family, before she was of legal age. However, what really pushed this romance into a disturbing area, according to the rumor, she had previously dated Justin Combs, Diddy's son. Regardless of whether the timeline overlapped or not. Instead, the visuals were unavoidable. It is said that Lori was passed from father to son, and Steve stepped up, beside everything, smiling for the cameras. It was brutal on social media. Memes went viral. Rumors circulate as wildfire. According to Nick Cannon, there were pondering, saying directly in an interview, "Everybody is different, but I would feel as though I've failed as a parent if I'm occupying the opposite seat at the table with the man I'm dating is about my age, daughter. Yes, I feel like I didn't measure up." Still, Steve said nothing. No declarations, no explanations, no pressure back. They were perplexed. How could Act Like a Lady was written by the same man. The book Think Like a Man is based on the fundamentals of male protection, accountability, and deference permit for anything similar to occur under his roof. I will speak to you as though you were my daughter. Reduce your speed. You must learn. What are these boys composed of? Additionally, you won't discover it at the age of 19. The silence grew unbearable. Additionally, for many, that silence, fans, was worse than assertion. It seemed as though authorization or worse, involvement. The unfollow followed. During October 2019, Lori had stopped following Diddy's Instagram account. Their audience appearances disappeared. Their correspondence distance took the place of clothes. People conjectured that something significant had to have happened. The split wasn't sloppy. It happened quickly, nearly like Ann Rubber. No interviews, no public altercation, just gone, no shadow. However, those who had been keeping a careful eye on things and knew something had changed. Lori wasn't merely severing connections with a male. She was breaking off contact with Astery. What was that story? A young black woman who is hardly conscious teen start dating a billionaire, twice her age following a rumored relationship with Hisson, although her famous stepfather claims despite having a career, little based on parental guidance and respectability direction, the general populace didn't just odd it was treachery, since if Steve Harvey was unable to defend his own daughter from such a circumstance, afterward, what did all of his writings, lectures, and what exactly do sermons mean? That's when people began to inquire about, never previously inquired. Not only about Diddy, Lori, but also about Steve. What sort of man permits something such as that? And why did he remain silent? As the Lori and Diddy rumors remained prevalent on blogs, a darker talk began to erupt beneath the surface, one that is not concerned with tabloids or dating rumors, but in regards to accountability, strength, and quiet. Because if Diddy was, this, is simply another famous boyfriend, would have blown over. However, Sean Combs wasn't just another famous person. He was a dude with a lengthy and now more revealed history of power, concealment, and claimed. Lori's appearance at Cyrock events entering the realm of luxury fans took notice of what Diddy created. Strange, not only was she being glamorized, they were branding her. Diddy didn't simply introduce women into his life. He rapped throughout his empire. At the time, Lori was his roster's greatest jewel. Silent, young, attractive, and connected. She never did interviews, never verified anything, but she was still constantly there till she wasn't. What people were more stunned by Steve Harvey's total disengagement. Never once did he convey widespread unease, worry, or even explanation. For a guy without issue describing to the world how women ought to act, how men ought to guide, and how fathers ought to guard, and his absence was glaring at the time. Behind the scenes there were rumors. Some people thought as a complicit party, Steve Harvey had negotiated or at the very least authorized the connection to deepen bonds with one among the strongest men in amusement. Some believed he was merely unable to prevent it. That Diddy's impact was so powerful that it would have cost him to speak up. Chances, publicity, or worse, turn into a target himself. However, the evidence was mounting. Lori and Diddy weren't only seen in the general public, they were everywhere. Cabo, Italy, Atlanta, and Manhattan with the family, coordinated, and wearing similar clothes looks. If there had been no relationship, it was among the most well-planned PR campaigns, stunts in the history of contemporary gossip. Additionally, the reality that Steve was constantly either being there or being uncannily silent didn't assist his instance. The Cassie video followed. The surveillance video that was recorded inside a hotel in Los Angeles in 2016 purportedly depicts Combs' ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in the corridor. The video, confirmed by numerous witnesses and recognized as proof in a federal Diddy, was seen kicking, during the investigation, brutally harming her and dragging her in a horrifying demonstration of authority. Those who had previously complimented became silent. Who collaborated with him was nearly instant. However, for others, it wasn't sufficient. They started going over everyone again who had been around Diddy, such as Steve. Supporters went back to Italy, pictures. The vacation to Mexico, the joy at supper, the covers of magazines, and the majority of all, they went back to asking, how Steve Harvey, who has constructed his brand centered on defending women, ever permit this. Even more concerning, there were rumors that Lori might have had a bad experience herself. Although she never discussed it in public, fans observed her change following the separation. Once her dating life open-minded and free-spirited, turned into becoming more and more private. She continued to talk regarding self-worth, boundaries, and the significance of self-awareness. A few hypothesized that, throughout her relationship alongside Michael B. Jordan, she revealed hidden hints that alluded to psychological harm. She was pointed out by others, choosing not to follow Diddy as a trivial act of separation, but as a subtlety of opposition. When Diddy is ficking, when the experiment starts in 2025, the inquiries have intensified. The prosecutors have shown a pattern of deception, violence, and coercion. Several women have come forward. Testimonies, videos, and records have come to light. Now, the people no longer inquire as to whether Diddy is guilty. They want to know who knew. Additionally, Steve Harvey is in the center of it all. The buttoned-up, the brand-safe implementer, the individual who instructed millions on how to become better fathers and husbands, today standing quietly beside one of the most unsettling scandals in entertainment of the decade. Lori Harvey has never been a frequent public speaker. She not all interviews are told. She doesn't reveal information in podcasts or post poignant Instagram captions. Nevertheless, she has emerged as one of the most discussed pop culture's portrayal of women. Section. That's intentional. Her attractiveness, her style sense, her prominent connections, but a portion of it is due to, she is the focal point of numerous never verifies or refutes any rumors among them. When the problem with the Diddy burst, that quiet turned into a sort of armor, but mistrust was aroused as well. Lori was thought by some to be playing the game, using connections for exposure, passing through celebrity circles that are strategic, rather than emotional. But others started to notice the silence in a different way, as a way to survival. Because regardless of how many fashion brands she wore or vacations she shared, something was always under guard. Lori's visibility in public. Something that recommended the image's flawless aesthetic was concealing a messier thing underneath the surface. When Lori began seeing Michael B. Jordan, admirers believed it to be a publicity stunt, an effort to tidy up her image following the Diddy incident. Backlash. However, as time went on, people started to observe how Lori appeared different in that connection. More at ease, more self-assured and in charge. Hello, was there Michael B. Jordan? I am aware that he's dating your daughter at the moment. Was he then? Having Christmas together? Claps. Yes. Take a look at that. That's taking place in front of you. That is an image I have never seen before. There were rumors that during their time, she had told him, together, about the previous pandemonium. Some even stated that she spoke with him personally about the felt unsettling electricity while near Diddy. There has never been anything that verified. However, we are aware that the romance ended as quietly as it had begun, as it started, and Lori moved once more, moving forward without remark or controversy, nothing but quiet. However, quiet in combination with the appropriate background, says a lot. Since then, Lori has taken additional authority over her public persona. She started a skincare company, turned into a fixture during the Met Gala, took her own from untidy headlines, but historical always manages to reappear. And now that Diddy's Saint Ficking trial is ongoing and numerous fan counts are going back to all the women you met with him, all the men, Lori included, who were standing next to him, Steve included, as Lori wasn't some aloof acquaintance. She had a hand in it. She was captured on camera. She lived in Diddy's fantasy world. In addition to being a visitor, she was the supposed ex, the rumored girlfriend, the A-man's stepdaughter, who had been Diddy's pal for more than 10 years. Additionally, in certain area, it gets more difficult to defend. What a lot of supporters now think is that Lori managed to escape in time. That, whatever transpired between Diddy and her, regardless of the boundary that was crossed, whether psychological, emotional, or worse, was enough to force her to break off relations entirely. The Instagram unfollow, the abrupt withdrawal from the paparazzi lenses, eliminating any indication of their relationship. There was no drama, it was defense. However, defense, against what? Every time there is a fresh report about Diddy's situation, that query turns into louder. Furthermore, the attention doesn't only land on Lori. Steve is left to bear the consequences. Since he wasn't merely a stepfather in the context, he played a significant role in the entertainment industry. He possessed platforms, influence, holding a microphone almost every day. However, when it was time to go up and talk, out to be clear, he decided not to speak. Not at all. Some continue to give him the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps he didn't understand. Perhaps Lori didn't inform him about the complete narrative. Perhaps he was caught off guard, like the planet at large. Others, however, aren't so forgiving. Because, in their case, the problem goes beyond what occurred. It concerns what Steve stands for, an individual who created a public profession that instructs women on how to safeguard oneself, despite purportedly neglecting to protecting the most significant woman in his life. And for that reason, this story is difficult to shake. Not only due to what possibly occurred, but due to whom allow it to occur. Steve Harvey is an expert of the microphone. If he's delivering a lecture or a joke, he knows how to keep a crowd interested. He's presented himself as a moral guide. A man who has learnt from his faults from them, and now imparts that knowledge to the world. However, in recent years, the disparity between his public image and in private decisions have begun to falter. That picture. He advises ladies to behave as, think like guys and act like ladies. Women anticipate men should, return that love. How they distribute it. Additionally, our love is radically different. However, he watched while According to reports, his daughter was engaged with among the strongest and currently most risky men on the field. He reveals guys to be strong, honest leaders. However, when it came time to face a tale that required moral clarification, he vanished from the story. He composed books about parenthood, sermons on devotion, held chat shows in which he evaluated other people based on their relationship failures. However, the one-time individuals truly, "I need you to set an example," he continued. Nothing. And that quiet has turned into segment of the narrative. As the federal case persists, the attention only intensifies more radiant. Several women have arrived forward with unsettling accusations. Weno stand for 120 people who plan to in a civil court to file legal claims versus Cone Sean Diddy. Court records describe years of pressure and manipulation, audio and video proof witness statements and tapes. It's not longer conjecture, it's a fact of law. Additionally, people are observing everyone who stood beside Diddy without saying a word. Steve Harvey is no longer being safeguarded by the presumption of innocence. Fans have begun to inquire as to whether his performance has always been higher for the brand, more than the principle. Ultimately, what is achievement if it entails receiving an invitation to the identical tables as? If respectability implies what? Remaining silent to safeguard your own reputation. What exacerbates the quiet is that Steve has consistently spoken up regarding everything else. He makes remarks about dating, culture, on the attire of women, on social problems with the way people bring up their children. However, as Lori was being pulled through reports for supposedly dating both Justin Combs and Diddy, when she was the awkward part of memes, the joke of he didn't defend her in interviews. He didn't claim she was entitled to privacy. He failed to update the record. He allowed the speculation was rampant even while he was sitting at the same dinner parties where the gossip was spread were created. Fans now feel deceived. Sean Diddy's federal case is currently Comey's keeps developing. That the entertainment sector is keeping an eye on incredulity. For many years there were rumors about Diddy's personal affairs, silent charges, NDA-bound whisper campaigns, settlements. However, nothing remained. That transformed in 2024 when several women filed claims against him for ficking and drugging. What once apparently online rumors are now unfolding in a federal courtroom alongside actual repercussions. Additionally, for each new information that is revealed, the quiet from his former closest friends and family gets louder. The trial has already begun. Regarded as one of the most well-known celebrities' instances in years, comparable to Weinstein, Cosby, and Kelly. However, Diddy's case bears its own weight. Not only because of his identity, but due to how profoundly he was a part of black celebrities, the mentorships, the parties, the culture, the partnerships. His reputation wasn't simply riches and authority. It served as defense. He was the kingmaker and gatekeeper. And that picture is falling now. By May 5th, the selection of the jury had already demonstrated the gravity of this trial. Interested jurors have been questioned about have ever been the victims of attack, engaged in communications with law enforcement, or posted anything about Diddy on the internet. Numerous acknowledged viewing the now famous surveillance footage showing him assaulting CNN's Cassie Ventura footage verified, and prosecutors' intent in the courtroom. It shows Diddy pursuing, Cassie pushes her down a hallway and into the ground, then gives her 2 kicks, then he snatches her neck and pulls her throughout the floor. That video it's simply unforgettable, damning. Diddy's attorneys have already attempted to keep the video down, saying it was unjustly altered. The judge didn't agree. The video will be played, and for jurors, that image might make a stronger statement, more than any eyewitness ever could. Furthermore, there are disturbing rumors that Diddy refused a plea bargain. Consequently, he's ready to battle this in full view of the general public. That implies more as well. Proof, additional testimonials, and more names might be brought up in this situation prior to its conclusion. Already conjecture is circulating regarding who was aware of what and when. Media, executives, and celebrities, individuals, including family friends. Anyone? Diddy's close friend is currently under a microscope. Indeed, people are looking straight at Steve Harvey, due to the fact that when Diddy was accused of controlling women, throwing gatherings that seem evil, presently looking back and creating an empire away from coercion, Steve Harvey was by his side. At dinners with family, at a Wardson private aircraft. The picture of Steve is seated peacefully in that Italian dinner table while Diddy and Lori were dating. Hits in a new way. What used to appear awkward feels incriminating now. This trial is removing the outermost layers of a system that shielded Diddy and other males. And if Steve was included in that system, or merely a silent witness, the harm is finished. His once untouchable reputation is currently linked to a case that might characterize a whole period of quiet in the realm of entertainment. Additionally, the worst of all, we're still unsure of how it goes deep. Whatever occurs in Sean Diddy Combs' courtroom already, legacy has been destroyed. Though the company is featured in a glossy magazine, The Black Excellence, the mogul myth story, everything fell apart at that moment. When survivors spoke up, the receipts emerged. However, Diddy's demise is also revealing a larger issue. How simple strong. Men can conceal themselves behind an image. How silence is frequently employed as a form of defense, and how many others remained silent despite. In front of them was the truth. Steve Harvey was once cited as an example of faith, family values, and fatherhood. Today is the focal point of a public trust emergency. The offenses were not committed by him. He wasn't billed. However, many people believe that no longer matters. Because when you teach all your life about being a powerful man, sage father, and moral, people look to you as a leader to act like one. Additionally, if your daughter gets trapped in orbit of A and you remain quiet for branding purposes, that quiet becomes a decision that you must make. 4. The internet never forgets. The Diddy pictures, the dinner table in Italy, the allegation that Lori was associated with Justin and Diddy, and the footage of Cassie being attacked by Diddy. This is the public opinion court, and Steve Harvey is now on trial as well. According to his supporters, he was simply being protecting in his own manner, that he remained silent in order to safeguard his daughters. He didn't owe the public his privacy. Anything. However, critics noticed something distinct. A man who loudly preached and behaved in silence. A millionaire. He might not have heeded suggestions when it was the most important thing. And Lori is still there, as quiet as ever. However, she is now silent. Reads as survival rather than controversy. Though the internet has changed, the same individuals who she was once pulled through rumors, and she is now viewed by memes as a possible victim of authority, age, and manipulation. Additionally, they're turning their enquiries to the men who ought to have more familiar. Perhaps Diddy is the one in court, but it's Steve Harvey. People are observing. Since the truth is that you can lose without having a conviction, legitimacy, all you have to do is stand next to the incorrect individual and remain silent. And a generation has now grown up with Steve in his words. Harvey asks, was he defending his daughter or defending himself? Because you won't in any case take another look at Steve Harvey following this. In any case, this concludes the video, people. Goodbye.